So with 2019 coming to an end, that can only mean one thing: the January transfer window is back, and it does open tomorrow. In today's video, we'll be going through all the latest transfer rumours which are currently going around the Championship, and we got a bunch of them to go over in today's video, which I'm interested to get your guys' opinions on. So what positions do you think your clubs need to strengthen in? And if you've seen any other rumours that we didn't mention in today's video, get them in the comments down below. And before we do get into anything, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, their link will be in the top line of the description down below. As the transfer window is opening tomorrow, we're going to have a hectic schedule over the next month or so, and so you can go over to the OneFootball app and keep up to date with all the latest transfer rumours which are going on around the Championship. We've also got a lot of football going on at the moment. If you checked out yesterday's video, that's where I gave my score predictions for what I think is going to happen in tomorrow's games on New Year's Day. After that, we've got the games going on in the FA Cup, so a whole bunch of Championship football coming our way. The best place to keep up to date with all of it is over at OneFootball. But without any further ado, let's hop into these transfer rumours. So we'll start out with the news of Eddie Nketiah. There are several major media outlets reporting that he will be recalled from his loan move at Leeds United back to Arsenal within the next 48 hours, obviously. His loan move to Leeds has been a bit of a weird one, really, because I think that everyone notices what a player Nketiah is, and when he has got a chance, he has looked really good. But the fact of the matter is, he's only made one start for Leeds in the Championship this far into the season, and so it's probably going to be the best thing for his career to get a loan move out somewhere else in the Championship. Obviously, the difficult situation at Leeds is that Nketiah has mostly been used as an impact substitute, making 15 appearances off the bench with them so far this season. But with Bielsa, he just loves Patrick Bamford. I mean, striker for striker, I think Nketiah is better than Bamford in terms of a finisher, but Bamford is that system player for Leeds, and for that reason, whenever Bamford's fit, he's going to play. You know, even when Bamford went on that goal drought earlier on this season, Bielsa still persisted with him, and Nketiah hasn't really got a look in so far. So the clubs to be interested, obviously, Bristol City were heavily linked to Nketiah in the summer. In the end, he chose to go to Leeds instead of Bristol City. I'd imagine that they would be back in for him come January. Nottingham Forest, another club who I'd imagine are looking around for a striker in January. Nketiah could be the ideal option for them for the end of the season. Brentford, another club who I've seen interested. So wherever he does end up, I think he will score goals. It's just the thing that Leeds, that Bamford's pretty much the first name on the team sheet every week. So with Nketiah going back, it's obvious that Leeds will be in the market for a striker in January, with Bamford being their only real out-and-out striker at the club at the moment. One player who I have seen linked has been Che Adams. He's not really hit the ground running in the Premier League so far at Southampton, yet to find the back of the net for them after making a £15 million move in the summer from Birmingham. Last time he was in the Championship, he was absolutely brilliant in that season. Him and Djukovic had that brilliant partnership between themselves. He scored 22 goals and got 4 assists. For Leeds United, he would be a very good option, but I'm just not sure I can see Southampton wanting to loan him out after spending that much money on him in the summer. You'd think that they try and persist with him for a bit longer. He has been getting a little bit more game time recently. So far this season, he's made 8 starts for Southampton and came off the bench 7 times. He is that player with really explosive pace, really is quite strong for his size as well, and like I said, if played in the right system, he can score goals for fun in the Championship. But I'm not sure if Southampton will be willing to let him go out on loan, though. He will be a great option for Leeds, but would he be happy to be back up to Patrick Bamford as well? I'm not so sure. It's a difficult one they've got at Leeds there, looking for a replacement for Nketiah. Billy Sharp, another player who's been linked with Leeds, obviously a former player there, has found first team opportunities quite limited so far in the Premier League, only making 1 start for Sheffield United and making 9 appearances coming off the bench, scoring the 1 goal in the time being. He had a fantastic season in their promotion season, of course, scoring 23 goals in that time, but reading over a recent Chris Wilder interview, it's fairly unlikely that Billy Sharp will be going anywhere in January. It looks like he's happy at Sheffield United to play the role he's currently doing at the moment. I think it's ultimately a rumour which I can't see going anywhere. In order to raise funds in January, it's looking like Newcastle are willing to listen to offers for striker Dwight Gayle. Now, there's going to be an abundance of Championship clubs going in for Gayle. It's just a question of if anyone's actually going to cough up the money for him. Obviously, he has been out injured for the majority of the season so far, but has been back lately and has made a few appearances off the bench for Newcastle in the Premier League. There's a weird thing with Dwight Gayle where he's never really been able to cut it in the Premier League, but whenever he's featured in the Championship, he just absolutely tears teams apart. Last time he was here last season, scored 24 goals for West Brom. I think as a striker over the last 5 years, has one of the best minutes to goals ratios in the Championship. He's absolutely lethal at this level. All the clubs that you'd expect to be linked to Dwight Gayle have been linked recently, you know, the likes of Leeds United, West Brom, and going back there. Nottingham Forest seems to be quite a strong link at the moment. Obviously, they could possibly raise the funds by selling Jarrod Carvalho, who's recently been linked to Olympiacos. If that move was to happen for, say, around about £10 million, they could then put that into Dwight Gayle. Forest fans, would you be happy with that, to see Carvalho leaving and bringing in Dwight Gayle? Do you think that would be a good exchange? Cardiff and Birmingham are a few more other clubs who I've seen mentioned in that conversation, but I think it's more than likely that he will be on the move, but I'm just not sure where I can see him ending up. Jamie Patterson and his loan move to Derby County was cut short. He'll be returning to Bristol City. He didn't really feature all too much for Derby, just made the 5 starts for them and 5 appearances off the bench, got 1 goal and 2 assists in the meantime. I don't think that Jamie Patterson's that bad of a player. player, to be honest. I think that when he is on his game, he can be quite influential. It's just that at times the game seems to pass him by a little bit, but I still think he can be a handy player returning to Bristol City. A rumour which popped up a few weeks ago, which I found quite interesting: Jack Marriott being linked with a move to Hull City on loan for the rest of the season. He did play 90 minutes in the game that Derby had last night in their 2-1 home victory against Charlton, but I found this to be quite an interesting one. Obviously, Jack Marriott has worked with Hull manager Grant McCann before at Peterborough, so obviously there's a clear link between the two there. I really like Jack Marriott. I think that he's probably Derby's best sort of natural finisher at the club. It's just a question of, I don't know if it's his attitude or he's just not been able to really keep himself fit for this season. He's not really featured all too much for Derby, only making 8 starts for them so far this season, with mainly Chris Martin being the man to lead the line for them so far. He's only scored 1 goal and got 2 assists. Last season scored 10 goals for Derby. I think there's so much more that he can offer, but I don't know if it's him himself or the circumstances around him just hasn't allowed him to do that recently for Derby. Hull City are also been linked with the move for Barnsley winger Malik Wilkes after making the move to Barnsley in the summer from Leeds United after having a really successful loan spell in League One to Doncaster last season, where he scored 16 goals in all competitions. I really thought Barnsley had a bargain on their hands there. A skillful direct winger who was flying past fullbacks in League One, but for whatever reason it's just not worked out for him at Barnsley. I think that he started out fairly brightly, but then things quickly faded away. He's shown flashes at Barnsley, but ultimately his end product's not really been there, just getting the 1 goal for Barnsley so far this season. He reminds me quite a bit of Adama Traore while he was at Aston Villa. Someone who's fairly strong and pacey, who can be really good on the ball, but the final product just isn't there at the moment, and he ends up looking like a headless chicken running around at times. But I think that maybe the move to Hull could be right for him, and with a different group around him he could become a different player, because at Doncaster he was fantastic. Preston played Doncaster last season in the Cup and he absolutely tore us apart. Liverpool midfielder Herbie Kane's also been linked to the Championship, another player similar to Malik Wilkes who has previously worked under Grant McCann, having a loan spell last season out to Doncaster. Currently the club said to be interested are both Hull City and Charlton Athletic. However, it's looking like Rangers may beat them both to the punchline with this one. Last season scoring 7 goals for Doncaster in League One, really highly rated player. There's been a whole bunch of Championship clubs being linked with League One top scorer Ivan Toney at the moment. 14 goals in League One in 22 appearances for Peterborough, with Preston North End said to be one of the clubs monitoring him at the moment. To be honest, I just can't see Preston going in for him. As much as I'd love to see, he's a cracking player doing brilliant things with Peterborough at the moment, but with the amount of money that they want for him, I'd be amazed if Preston were even willing to stump up like half of that really. It's just not within the model of the club at the moment. Bristol City, Birmingham and Forest are the other clubs who I could feasibly see going in for him. It's just a question of who's willing to pay the money. Liverpool striker Rhian Brewster also looks like he'll be on the move to the Championship. It's looking like a loan move is on the cards. Leeds United have been interested, but with how the loan deal for Nketiah has turned out, Liverpool might not be so keen to send him out on loan there. Swansea City seem to be the favourites at this point in time, obviously with Steve Cooper being the manager there and previously working with Brewster in England's setup, as he was previously the manager of the under-17s. I could see that as a realistic move that could come off. Liam Moore being linked to West Brom was quite an interesting transfer link that I found the other day, and I'd be interested to get some both West Brom fans and Reading fans' opinions on this one. Obviously, is that a position that West Brom needs to look into? Maybe if someone like Higazi was going to leave in the January transfer window. I had seen a bit of speculation about him maybe moving abroad, but obviously for the majority of the season so far, Kyle Bartley and Semi Ajayi have formed a really good partnership there. Liam Moore at Reading, really solid Championship defender, one of the leaders they've really got in that team. When Reading came to Deepdale the other day, I thought he was really solid. I'd imagine they command quite a big fee for him, considering I think he's still got 3 years left to run on his contract, and I'd imagine they'd be looking at upwards of around about £6 million for him. One to keep you around. I think that one could have something to it. David Moyes has been recently appointed as a new West Ham manager, and it's looking like they'll be dipping into the market for a midfielder. Joe Allen seems to be top of that list at the moment, and West Ham and David Moyes at West Ham seem to have a bit of a track record with splashing obscene amounts of money on Championship players. They did it a couple of years ago with Jordan Hugill, but now the attention has turned to Joe Allen, who I would say his performances have improved over the last month or so since O'Neill has come in. Could that be coincided with him angling for a move away from the club in January? Possibly, but the fee being talked about at the moment is around about £12 million. If I was a Stoke fan, I'd be taking that every day of the week. I think the whole club at Stoke needs a restructure, and that starts with getting some of these players out. So for me, Joe Allen for £12 million, I think that'd be best for both parties. Burnley were linked to Josh Brownhill in the summer transfer window, and some of that speculation has resurfaced going into January. I think that Josh Brownhill, with the age he's at, English young centre midfielder, and the performances that he comes out with for Bristol City, very diverse in the roles that he can play within midfield as well, is always going to attract a lot of Premier League interest, and Burnley is the latest club to be interested. With Bristol City, I think they do have a decent track record with getting good fees for their players, so if Brownhill was to leave, it certainly wouldn't be on the cheap. I don't think they'd let him go in January. It'd have to be a bit of a ridiculous fee, really. Maybe I could see him moving on in the summer, but I think for the time being, they'll keep hold of him. Another player Burnley have been interested in has been Conor Gallagher, currently out on loan at Charlton, and Burnley have apparently expressed an interest in maybe taking him on loan. Preston, another club, Alex Neil said to be a fan of Conor Gallagher. Charlton will be hoping that they'll be able to keep their hands on him for the entire season. Had a really positive year for them so far with 6 goals and 2 assists from midfield. A host of Championship clubs have been linked to Celtic midfielder Johnny Hayes. Currently Cardiff, Preston, Middlesbrough and Stoke City are also to be interested in the player. Can either play as a winger or as a left back. Would bring a bit of experience into any of those sides, and with his contract expiring at the end of the season, would be a cheap deal. QPR have been heavily linked with the move for Scottish striker Lauren Shankland, currently playing in the Scottish Championship for Dundee, where he scored 19 goals in 17 appearances there. Wouldn't be a bad backup option for QPR in my opinion. It's just, I think they've got other priorities to look into, like a defence and a goalkeeper maybe. Aidan McGeady is available on a transfer in January after not seeing eye to eye with Phil Parkinson, it seems, at Sunderland. And the club that I've seen interest in, Middlesbrough, I've seen a couple of links to. Blackpool in League One with Simon Grayson obviously being the manager there is another club who I've seen interested. Scored 4 goals and got 2 assists for Sunderland. Not played since November though. He's 33 years old, but I don't know, maybe it's because I'm being a bit biased as a Preston fan, but I still think he offers something. I'm very intrigued to see where he does eventually end up. Croatian defender Filip Benkovic is being linked with a loan move to Derby County. Spent last season out on loan at Celtic. He made his move to Leicester a couple of seasons ago from Dynamo Zagreb. Derby obviously looking to bolster their options at the back. But guys, there you have it. There are some of the recent transfer rumours currently going around the Championship. So if we missed any off in today's video, make sure to get them in the comments down below. I love this time of year for transfer rumours. They are absolutely all over the place at the moment. So if you did come to enjoy, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks very much for watching. I hope everyone has a fantastic new year tonight, and I'll see you all in the next one.